Meantime, Chicago's top cop says a simmering feud among rival gangs led to the mass shooting in the city's Back of the Yards neighborhood. One person was there and 4 people wounded when gunfire rang out at 48th and Ada yesterday afternoon. Today, Superintendent David Brown pointed the finger at suspected gang leader Sergio Barron for the increase in violence.
In April, Melina's daughter, 9-year-old Ariana, was killed in a mass shooting.
She was everything to me. She was my little princess. I just don't see how she's not here. Like, that's so hard for me.
Now, a Chicago man has been charged with 1 count of first-degree and 10 counts of attempted.
He was there like nothing. Like, he didn't care about what he did. Like, he was just there.
10-year-old Angel Gomez, a documented gang member who's charged with 2 counts of attempted and 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm. Investigators say Gomez drove the van carrying the person who opened fire on the plainclothes tactical officers. You see that vehicle right there, using a military-style semi-automatic rifle.
Just learned Chicago police have charged a 17-year-old suspect in the shooting death of a 14-year-old girl back on June 2nd.
Chicago's Back of the Yards neighborhood, once the beating heart of the city's industrial might, grew up in the shadows of the Union stockyards, a place where immigrant families carved out new lives amid the smoke, grit, and blood of the meatpacking empire. From the early 1900s through the mid-century, it was a working-class stronghold filled with Polish, Irish, Mexican, and Lithuanian laborers who built communities block by block. But when the stockyards closed in 1971, jobs vanished, and the vacuum left behind gave rise to something darker. By the 1980s, the same tight alleys and brick flats that once echoed with factory whistles became battlegrounds for street gangs, first the Almighty Saints, then rivals like the 2-6, Latin Kings, Party People, and later Black Pea Stones, Four Corner Hustlers, and Satan Disciples. Generations of turf wars have marked this area, transforming it into one of the city's most persistent gang hot zones. Today, Back of the Yard stands at a crossroads, a place where neighborhood renewal and violent legacy coexist. From the mass shootings that have scarred families to the federal takedowns that reshaped gang hierarchies. Every arrest and every operation is part of the same ongoing struggle to reclaim the streets from the violence that has haunted them for decades.
Leader Sergio Barron for the increase in violence. Brown says just days after Barron was released from federal custody in March, he was picked up by Chicago police on a weapons charge, but he was then let out on a $1,000 cash bond. In April, his brother and police say Barron has fueled the escalating gang war. Police are now calling for prosecutors to get Barron off the streets.
We are in conversations now with the U.S. Attorney's Office as well as State's Attorney's Office on number one, trying to figure out how can we revoke his bond, get him back, this high-ranking gang member that's driving this violence because of retaliation for his brother. Try to get him off the street.
20-year-old Mario Sanders is facing aggravated battery and resisting arrest charges. Police say that Sanders pushed an officer to the ground and punched another in the face. Police tell us a second man tried to stop officers from providing medical treatment for the shooting victims.
In March 2024, a deadly mass shooting rocked Chicago's Back of the Yards neighborhood, leaving 1 man dead and 4 others wounded in what police described as a violent feud between rival gangs. The attack occurred near 48th Street and Honoré when multiple gunmen opened fire during a street confrontation. A 19-year-old man met his demise at the scene, while 2 other victims, ages 16 and 18, were critically injured. Another pair, also 16 and 18, suffered gunshot wounds but were listed in stable condition. Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown attributed the surge in violence to an escalating gang war led by suspected gang leader Sergio Barron. According to Brown, Barron had only recently been released from federal custody and was rearrested by Chicago police on a weapons charge in March. He was released again on a $1,000 bond, a decision Brown publicly criticized, claiming that Barron's freedom had reignited retaliatory shootings following the demise of his brother just weeks later. Brown stated that the Chicago Police Department was in active discussions with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office to have Barron's bond revoked and return him to custody. During the chaotic aftermath of the shooting, police officers attempting to secure the scene were attacked by 2 alleged gang members, Mario Sanders, was arrested and charged with aggravated battery and resisting arrest after allegedly pushing an officer to the ground and punching another in the face. Police said these confrontations underscored the level of hostility and lawlessness that has gripped parts of the back of the yard's community.
A 17-year-old suspect in the shooting death of a 14-year-old girl back on June 2nd. That shooting happened on the 1700 block of West 48th Street. The victim was shot in the head. The suspect was taken into custody last night.
Back of the yard shooting. Suspect charged in shooting death of 14-year-old girl. In early June 2024, a shooting in Chicago's back of the yards took the life of 14-year-old Savanah Quintero, a 7th grader who, according to police and community leaders, was caught in the crossfire of a neighborhood gang feud she wasn't part of. Around 6 p.m., near the 1700 block of West 48th Street, Savanah and her boyfriend had just left a corner store when 3 young males confronted them and asked about gang affiliation. After Savanah said she wasn't in a gang, the group chased her and opened fire. 2 rounds were fired by at least 1 gunman, and Savanah was struck in the head. She underwent emergency surgery at Comer Children's Hospital, but died days later. Investigators recovered surveillance video showing suspects fleeing, and community sources told officials the conflict likely involved rivalries between the long-entrenched Almighty Saints and a newer crew referred to locally as the Party People, which had been recruiting teens from nearby schools. Chicago police later announced the arrest of a 17-year-old, identified as the person who fired the gun, taken into custody in the 3700 block of West 59th Street and charged in connection with the demise.
Good evening, Jim and Mai. Police say it's 1 down and 1 to go. Now that they've made 1 arrest, police are now looking for the shooter. The alleged driver, 18-year-old Angel Gomez, a documented gang member who's charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm. Investigators say Gomez drove the van carrying the person who opened fire on the plainclothes tactical officers. You see that vehicle right there, using a military-style semi-automatic rifle. Those 2 9th District officers were conducting a follow-up investigation near 43rd and Ashland in the back of the yards last week. Police say members of Gomez's gang opened up during questioning, leading them to Gomez.
In May 2017, a violent case of mistaken identity nearly claimed the lives of 2 Chicago police officers and reignited citywide outrage over gang violence targeting law enforcement. On May 2nd, officers from the Deering District were conducting surveillance in the area of Halsted Street and Archer Avenue, following reports of a gang-related shooting. The plainclothes officers, driving an unmarked black police van, were trailing a Nissan Murano and a red van believed to be involved in earlier gunfire. Unknown to them, members of the La Raza street gang, who mistook the police for rivals, mobilized to intercept them. According to prosecutors, Angel Gomez was behind the wheel of a Chrysler Town and Country minivan when his accomplice opened the sliding side door and unleashed at least 25 rounds from a .223 caliber assault rifle toward the officer's van near 34th Street. The barrage struck both officers, 1 hit in the hip, arm, and flank, the other in the back before the police vehicle's gas tank was punctured by bullets, forcing it to stall. Despite their injuries, the officers returned fire through the windshield, hitting one of the minivan's tires. Gomez and his passenger abandoned the vehicle, stashing the rifle near nearby railroad tracks before fleeing on foot. The weapon was later recovered by police K-9 units. Gomez, identified through witnesses and surveillance evidence, was captured soon after and charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree deletion, aggravated battery with a firearm, and related weapons charges. Authorities say his accomplice, the gunman, remains at large. Prosecutors linked both men to the La Raza gang, which was feuding at the time with the Latin Saints and 2 X gangs in the back of the yards area. The shooting, they said, was a tragic byproduct of gang paranoia and false identification, as Gomez's crew mistook the officer's unmarked van for that of rivals.
10 people were injured, including 3 other children and Molina's wife, who was shot in the back.
Nah, she's doing way better.
Molina says his nephews were just released from the hospital last week.
Both of them, I saw them yesterday. They're doing really good, really better. But like the doctors say, their life is not going to be normal ever.
Now, a Chicago man has been charged with 1 count of first-degree and 10 counts of attempted.
He was there like nothing. Like he didn't care about what he did. Like, he was just there.
39-year-old Octaviano Romero had his first court hearing Monday. Molina says yesterday was a blur because this was the first time he saw the person who was accused of killing his daughter.
I was so mad. I just want to beat him up, but like I said, I gotta let the justice do their job.
In the back of the Yards mass shooting on April 13th, Chicago police say a family birthday gathering in the 2000 block of West 52nd Street was ambushed by attackers armed with an assault-style rifle and handguns. Investigators recovered roughly 75 shell casings scattered across the block after bursts of rapid fire tore through the crowd. 11 people were shot. The youngest victim, 9-year-old Ariana Molina, was struck in the head and died shortly after arriving at Comer Children's Hospital. 3 other children were wounded: an infant, about 1 year old, and an 8-year-old, both hit in the abdomen and initially listed in critical condition, and a 9-year-old grazed in the hand, along with 7 adults who sustained gunshot injuries of varying severity. Detectives later announced the arrest of Octaviano Romero and charged him with the first-degree demise in Ariana's demise and 10 counts of attempted deletion for the additional victims. According to police, Romero was identified as one of the shooters. The investigation has focused on the likelihood that multiple gunmen were involved.
The man is facing charges right now, accused of shooting and killing 2 teenage boys in a drive-by. That shooting happened last August near 48th and Winchester in the back of the Yards neighborhood. Police say Adrian Sanchez shot the teens while they were standing outside a house.
In August 2024, a drive-by shooting in Chicago's back of the Yards neighborhood claimed the lives of 2 teenagers, Carlos Galindo and Miguel Meza, both described by family members as hard-working students with no confirmed gang involvement. According to police, the attack unfolded on August 3rd, 2024, in the 4800 block of South Winchester Avenue, when a vehicle pulled up in front of a home where the boys were standing. Without warning, a gunman opened fire, striking both victims multiple times before fleeing northbound toward 47th Street. The investigation, led by the Chicago Police Department's Area 1 detectives, quickly identified Adrian Sanchez as the suspected shooter. Surveillance footage from nearby cameras captured a silver sedan matching the description of Sanchez's vehicle circling the block moments before the attack. Witnesses later confirmed seeing Sanchez behind the wheel. Detectives also recovered shell casings at the scene that were linked through ballistics testing to a firearm used in a previous shooting tied to Sanchez's associates. Prosecutors with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office alleged that the shooting was gang-motivated, part of an ongoing feud between factions of the Latin Saints and a rival crew connected to the Satan Disciples, though investigators have not publicly confirmed the victims' affiliations. Police sources suggested that Sanchez may have believed the teens were associated with rivals. Authorities called the case a senseless act of retaliation that claimed the lives of 2 innocent kids. Sanchez was arrested in January 2025, following a warrant executed by the Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force. During his bond hearing at the Layton Criminal Courthouse, prosecutors detailed the forensic evidence and surveillance footage linking him to the double deletion. Judge Kelly McCarthy ordered Sanchez held without bail, citing the brutality of the attack and the clear premeditation involved. Police said the shooting marked one of several high-profile attacks in back of the Yards during the summer of 2024, involving assault-style weapons and retaliatory gang shootings, underscoring a resurgence of gang warfare in the neighborhood's southern corridor. In September 2013, one of Chicago's most shocking mass shootings unfolded in the back of the Yards neighborhood when gunmen opened fire at a late-night basketball game at a park near 51st and Wood Street. The gunmen fired an assault-style rifle and handguns into a crowd of about 100 people, wounding 13 individuals, including a 3-year-old boy, Deonta Howard, who was struck in the face. The attack was later determined to be gang-related, a retaliation for an earlier shooting tied to the Black Pea Stones and Four Corner Hustlers gangs. Police quickly identified and arrested 4 suspects: Brian Champ, Tabari Young, Kewain Gatewood, and Brad Jeff. Investigators allege that Champ and Young were the shooters, with Champ firing a handgun and Young using an AK-47 style rifle equipped with a high-capacity magazine. Gatewood was accused of supplying the rifle, while Jeff acted as a lookout during the ambush. Authorities described Champ as a documented gang member with prior gun convictions, who had recently served time in prison and was on parole at the time of the shooting. The shooters fired indiscriminately from a nearby alley and fled, leaving behind dozens of shell casings. Despite the number of victims, no one was deleted, and the wounded, including 2 teenagers and the toddler, survived after extensive surgeries. Following lengthy pretrial proceedings, Brian Champ pleaded guilty in 2018 to multiple counts of attempted first-degree deletion and aggravated battery with a firearm. Lookout received an 8-year sentence for aiding and abetting the crime. The case became a focal point in Chicago's debate over gun access and gang violence, illustrating how military-style weapons had fueled mass shootings even in city neighborhoods with strict firearm ordinances. Superintendent Gary McCarthy and Mayor Rahm Emanuel publicly praised detectives for closing the case quickly, calling it an example of community cooperation and relentless police work. Deonta Howard, the child victim whose survival became a symbol of resilience, underwent multiple surgeries and later spoke publicly about his recovery. His family has since worked with local anti-violence groups to campaign against gang recruitment and to support stricter gun enforcement in Chicago. Victor Vasquez was charged with first-degree deletion in the back of the yard's demise of Albertano Medrano, who was shot while double-parked and waiting for his wife and a friend in the 4,500 block of South Hermitage. According to prosecutors' proffer, Vasquez was driving a stolen white van with an accomplice as they cruised the area looking for rivals. The passenger opened fire, striking Medrano in the neck, head, and back, and sending his vehicle crashing into parked cars. Officers recovered 10 spent casings on the block, and surveillance video. A short time later showed 2 suspects trying to stash something in a clothing donation bin near a gas station in the 5200 block of Southwestern. Police found an AK-47 in nearby bushes, with preliminary ballistics indicating a match to casings from the scene. Vasquez and his accomplice were arrested in an alley in the 5100 block of South Artesian. Vasquez admitted driving the van, and a judge set his bond at $1 million. In what police described as a violent and chaotic chain of events, a deadly shooting in Chicago's back of the yards neighborhood on a Monday evening left 1 man dead and 2 officers injured. Investigators say the incident began when 4 suspects later identified as Antonio Gonzalez, Isaac Corona, and 2 teenage boys aged 16 and 17 were riding in a stolen vehicle near the 5100 block of South Elizabeth Street. Around that time, gunfire erupted toward a 21-year-old man who was fatally struck. Witnesses reported seeing muzzle flashes from the moving vehicle as it sped away through residential streets. Responding officers quickly tracked the stolen car using automated license plate readers and pursued it as it fled the scene. The chase ended when the suspects crashed only minutes later. Corona and the 2 juveniles were captured at the crash site after a brief foot chase. Meanwhile, Gonzalez, who had fled the wreck, allegedly stole another vehicle in a desperate attempt to escape. When officers cornered him, he resisted violently, injuring 2 police officers during the struggle before being subdued and arrested. Authorities recovered multiple firearms believed to have been used in the shooting. Both Gonzalez and Corona were described by law enforcement sources as having prior gang affiliations tied to area factions operating in back of the yards, though police have not specified which group they belong to. The 21-year-old male victim, whose name has not been publicly released pending family notification, was pronounced dead at the scene. In the aftermath, Isaac Corona was charged with first-degree deletion, while Antonio Gonzalez faced multiple felonies, including attempted deletion, aggravated battery to a police officer, and unlawful possession of a stolen vehicle. The 17-year-old was charged with possession of a stolen vehicle and resisting arrest, and the 16-year-old with resisting and criminal trespass. The story of Back of the Yards is more than a chronicle of gang arrests. It's a portrait of survival. Each case, from the Almighty Saints versus Party People feud that took young Savanah Quintero, to the Latin Saints and 2-6 false flag shootings, to the mass attacks with assault rifles reflects a community caught between resilience and grief. Law enforcement crackdowns like the arrests of Adrian Sanchez, Victor Vazquez, and Ernesto Godinez show progress, but they also reveal the cyclical nature of gang culture, retaliation feeding retaliation. Still, in the heart of these same streets, new stories are being written. Churches, schools, and youth programs have become sanctuaries of hope, where generations once lost to the streets now mentor those still at risk. Back of the Yards is not just the site of Chicago's most tragic gang conflicts. It's a living reminder that even in the city's hardest-hit neighborhoods, community and determination endure. From its industrial birth to its modern fight for peace, Back of the Yards remains proof that Chicago's toughest neighborhoods also have the strongest hearts.